basics. I really wanted to do this video for a long time, so here we go. I'm going to show you a little bit about what I use to do the upkeep on the tanks, and just something you want to have around the tanks. Let's start with a net. I think this is key for anyone that is wanting to get into the fish keeping hobby. First, you definitely need to get yourself a net. I usually have two nets, a big one about twice as big as this, and a little one. The little one really comes in handy. The big one is the one you use the most, but number one, I think you need a net. Here is number two. This is a siphon hose for used just basically to take the water out of a tank and to dip into the gravel and take out the dirt out of the gravel. Now, there is different versions of these hoses. There's some for bigger tanks that are battery operated. I've done videos on that as well. That's something you want to keep around. And let's go on to the next one. Now that you have a hose, you probably need a bucket. So number three would be a bucket. I keep my hose and bucket together usually. And this bucket is really special. It has wheels. I can move it around where I need. So that's number three. You need a bucket so you can dump the water out of your tank into a bucket when you're doing your cleaning of your tank. Number four, you'll probably need some scissors, and it's always good to keep the rubber bands stored that you get off of the bags that the fish come in. And the scissors are good to help you open the bags a lot of the time. And for trimming the leaves off of dead plants, even cutting some tubing, air hose tubing, you want to have that around somewhere. Number five, I believe, you want to have a towel or some small cotton rag to pick up any water, anything that spills on you. You want to keep that handy, usually somewhere with your bucket, somewhere handy, and you'll use this quite a bit, and yeah, it's extremely important. Number six, I think this is not in any order or anything like that, but I think this is number six. This would be a magnet. It comes apart here. Let me show you guys if I can. Well, let's leave it for now, but it sticks onto the glass and you can move it around and clean the glass. Now I find these, especially this one, is very powerful. That's why I can't really show you these two magnets. Oh, there you go. So what it is just a nice rubbery material on there, and what happens is you move it around, it cleans the algae off of the tank, and there's all kinds of different versions of something that can clean the glass. Now I find this to be the one that really does not scratch the glass. Any of these, they come in different sizes, from really tiny ones to really big ones. They come in from different companies as well. I just use this one. It has a good, as long as it has a good solid magnet, you need the power, because if you get the weak ones, they will keep falling off on you. But even if they do, it's still extremely useful. That would be number six. Number seven. you just need some kind of a stick. I use this stick. This came from one of those um, razor blade glass cleaning um, doohickeys, I guess. But in any case, I use a stick. You can poke around, move decorations around without putting your whole hand in the aquarium tank, which is extremely useful if you have a really large tank, even in a small tank. You want to have something like that around. I usually keep that in my bucket as well. So that would be number 7. Number 8, I'll use this package, but what I mean is you need something that will correct the pH for you, for a tank, for the type of fish you have. And on the same note, I'll say pH testers and something that corrects the pH levels for your water. So that means it'll put the acidity of the fish tank where the specific type of fish really likes it the most, so that it feels good for them in the water, so that they're not having issues with their internal organs and whatnot. Okay, so this is also on top of that same point here is tap water conditioner. Anytime you're adding water into the tank, you need this chemical to add to the water as per directions based on the amount of water you're using to add to the tank. Right, Max? Correct. And I have one more thing here. I'll show you guys. On top of the same point here, I have a spare thermometer, and sometimes I don't really feel like having a thermometer in the tank, like in this tank here, and I don't feel like sticking something on the side of the tank, so I just keep one around, and I can walk around and just put one in, like a doctor would, you know? You just dump it in, leave it there for a while, check your temperature, take it out. I always have a spare one somewhere. Okay, so I think this would be number 9, 8 or 9, I believe. You want to have a spare bowl or a cup or both. The bowl would be if you have some fish you really need to put in really quickly, especially the really small net comes in handy for that. Like a really temporary home for like a split minute, and the cup always to top up some water. Right, Max? That's what you need. That would be number 9. Let's see what else we need. You also need one of these. These are extremely useful, because you can leave water sitting in them for a while, and basically maybe a couple days, 2 days, 3 days, and then when you use it, it's a lot better water than fresh right out of the tap, right? It still has to be treated, but this definitely is on my list. And I'll do this one here, number 10. I would say you need a location to store all of your other things that you use. Like I have some extra equipment, some extra testing, pH testers. I have some automatic fish feeders. I have all sorts of decorations, tubings, a lot of tubings, pots, buckets, even a huge LED light that I'm currently not using, some other lights I've used in the past. You always want to have some power bars handy as well, and the list continues. You can see I have junk boxes basically where I put everything I could ever reuse little filters I used to have, even a stick, like I mentioned in one of the number, I'm not sure which one it was, 4 or 5. There was a stick. I used to use this one. Yeah, some decorations you can always clean out. Lots of other big filters, lights, like I said, more liquids and chemicals. That would be one of the more important things. And yeah, definitely it helps if you have a basement somewhere, some couple shelves like here, and just store everything away that you don't use right now, but you may want to use in the future, or even if you're not sure, just dump it in there. And it's really fun to even dig through this stuff a couple years later and see what you can reuse. One more thing that's really important. Probably this is it. It's a little box I have here, and pardon the mess, I have another hose here as well. And look at that, I even have a water bottle here where I put some distilled water in there and keep that for my fish tanks. I cover this because of my bird, Max. And basically, this is a food box. I have all kinds of flakes and packages of food in here. And I also have more in here and another little storage area. So this is very key to have these little places where you can put your food in, feel comfortable with it. I have flakes. I keep my flakes in a old coffee jar. I buy this stuff I buy it by weight. It's a lot cheaper for me. One of my fish stores sells it by weight, and it's a lot better, except for some of the brands I really love. I keep buying those over and over. I also have Windex. Super important, you spill things a lot. I have some water clear as well. It's another little thing I use. You don't need that, but it does help sometimes. Yeah, that's mostly what I keep. I have a little junk pile here. Eventually, some of this will end up in my basement where you guys saw in the previous video. But I keep this handy as I keep working on my fish tank. And let's see what else here. Now, I am just getting to this part where I think art is also very important around your fish tank. On the back of your fish tank, around your fish tank. You want to feel like you're in a fish room. Not something you need, but it does help to put the mood of a fish room into your fish room. I'm just getting into that myself. A lot of people already have a ton of art. This is a really cool piece I picked up. So those are the key things. You can always add on to that. There's a ton of stuff I missed, most likely, but that's the key stuff that you have to keep around all the time. The food, the fish flakes are key. Always keep extra packages somewhere around your fish tank or fish tanks, just in case you will run out and you don't want to run to the store, or it's late at night, you can't run to the store. Have food, extra fish food, like I showed you the box, and so on. Anything you use to clean your fish tanks, keep things handy. But you'll notice that your fish towel or rag, like I have a bunch of them all over the place. They'll get a little bit dirty, but that's okay. You need these things around. And for the most part, that's pretty much it. I have extra spare filters as well for my tanks, extra power pumps for air pumps, and I use water pumps as well to help me siphon out water from the tanks instead of hauling all the buckets all the time. I do have one more little area, and I'll show you that right now. Hang on, let me flip this over. So I do have this little area here, and this is a Brita jug, another bucket, but more importantly, I have a whole ton of gravel that I pulled out of a tank. I keep adding this gravel into a tank. This is supposed to be in my basement. I just haven't gotten to moving it there. That's why that little cup is important. Sometimes you want to move some gravel out, put some gravel in. It's good to have a spare box with gravel around. I have a net here as well. What I usually do when I bring a fish in from the fish store is I'll dump the water in here with the fish in my net. There's a fish net sitting here, and the water will drip into this gravel, keeping this whole thing wet, a little bit moist sometimes, and the fish will go in here. That way I don't use the water that came with the fish. I simply add the fish by themselves into the fish tank.